Hey guys, today I wanted to compare the 2020 presidential election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump to the 2016 presidential election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So here we have the 2016 electoral map, Trump winning 306 electoral votes and Hillary Clinton losing the election with 232 electoral votes, and it was this map that helped Donald Trump win the presidency. So here Trump winning 306 electoral votes, and one of the main reasons why I want to do this video is because Biden and Hillary Clinton have been compared to as very similar Democratic candidates. They're both pretty old. They have both been serving as a politician for a very long time. Hillary Clinton being a senator as well as the former Secretary of State, along with being Bill Clinton's first lady for 8 years. Joe Biden, of course, serving 36 years in the Senate for the state of Delaware, as well as becoming the vice president for Obama for 8 years. So they have both had pretty long political paths. They were both pretty old when they ran for president. And in addition to that, they are both moderate Democrats, and Democrats that are very well known. So Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, I think their biggest difference, and a difference that will really give Joe Biden the electoral victory that I expect him to have, is the fact that Joe Biden is a much more popular candidate than Hillary Clinton ever was. Hillary Clinton had a 34% approval rating. Joe Biden has around a 50-50 at the moment. So 50% of the country views him favorably, and then 50% views him unfavorably. This is much better than Clinton. She had a net 30, net 40 disapproval rating in 2016. So I think Biden's popularity can clearly be seen here looking at the 2016 map, and then looking at the 2020 map based on polling averages. As you can see, Biden flipped the state of Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, as well as the 2nd District of Nebraska. So Hillary Clinton really underperformed in the Midwest. This is honestly just because she never even visited Wisconsin in the last 5 months of the election. She took these states for granted. She did not. She neglected these states, and if she had won these 3 states, she would have won the election. So I think this was a big mistake by her campaign. She really did not visit these states too much, as well as the state of Florida. She did lose the state by a very small margin, but she did not spend too much time in the state either. So I think that Hillary Clinton just had made many tactical mistakes in 2016. However, I think that this time around Joe Biden will definitely not underestimate these 3 states, especially the state of Pennsylvania. Joe Biden's always talking about how he was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. To motivate Pennsylvania voters to vote for Joe Biden, as of course his birth state was the state of Pennsylvania. And then looking at the state of Arizona, a state that's becoming more and more liberal. This is likely to go to Biden as well, along with him flipping the states of Florida and North Carolina. So here I've made a graph showing the 2016 actual results, compared them to the 2020 polling averages. So as you can see here, there are 5 likely swing states for Joe Biden: Virginia, Minnesota, Michigan, Florida, and Pennsylvania. These 5 states, they are polling very strongly for Joe Biden. 3 of these states being states that Trump won in 2016: Michigan, Florida, Pennsylvania, states that he won by around 0 to 1.2%. States that Biden leads by over 7.4% in. Hillary Clinton lost the state of Pennsylvania by 0.7%. Now Biden leads in it by 7.4%. She lost by 2.2% in Michigan. Biden leads by 8.4% in Michigan in 2020. So this really just shows how much more popular Biden is compared to Hillary Clinton. And looking at this, 5 lean states for Joe Biden: North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Wisconsin. 3 of these states Trump won. 2 of them Hillary Clinton won by very narrow margins. And looking at the state of Ohio, a state that polls in favor of Joe Biden by 1.5% at the moment, lost by Hillary Clinton by 8.1%. And then looking at the state of Georgia, Iowa, and Texas, these states, Biden is behind in the polls by very small margins, all less than 2%, so only really a tilt margin for Donald Trump. States that Hillary Clinton lost by 5%, 9%, 9% again. So Biden really is just regaining many Democratic and independent voters that swayed away from Clinton in 2016 and are now coming back into the Democratic coalition. Looking at here, Trump won 12 out of the 16 toss-up states in 2016. 11 out of the 15 states in 2016. And looking at this now, Trump only leads in 3 of these toss-up states: Georgia, Iowa, and Texas. So this is not looking good for Donald Trump. And then if you look at my predictions here, this is basically how I think it will go. I think that Biden will overperform in Virginia and Minnesota. However, in basically every other state, I think he will underperform the polls just because I want to, in 2016, Hillary Clinton, definitely underperformed the polls quite a bit. However, not as much as you would think because she was really only supposed to win 272 electoral votes, even though she had a absolutely astronomically huge lead in the betting odds for the entire election cycle, which we'll look at in a couple of minutes. And then I think, Trump will win the 3 states that he's leading in. Georgia, I think, will be pretty close. I do think that Biden still has a chance of flipping the state as well, really giving him his solid landslide victory that he is looking for. Looking here, I just want to look at the polling data for the 2020 election. As you can see here, Joe Biden leads Donald Trump by 9.1% at the moment. His polling lead did dip down to around 8% in early June. However, it has gone back up again to 9.1%. His peak being here when he led by 10.1, 10.2% on June 22nd. That was his real polling lead ever since he won the nomination. He became the presumptive nominee, which is basically when I assume, he wins the nomination, which was around March 2nd when he won Super Tuesday. I would use that date. So as you can see here, up until now, Biden has had a pretty consistent lead over Trump. Trump has never overtaken Joe Biden in the polling. He leads by 9.1% at the moment. And then if you compare this to 2016, in 2016, Hillary Clinton was only leading by 3.2% in the polls on election day, and she lost the election, but she did win the popular vote by 2.1%, so she did underperform by 1.1%. If Joe Biden would have underperformed by 1.1%, he would still win by 8%, and he would still win the election. If he would have won by 8% nationwide, there really is no chance of Donald Trump winning an electoral college victory. 9% is, 9% is just way too much for Trump to still win the election. And if you look down here, Trump actually leads in some polls in 2016. But if you look down here at 2020, Trump basically has not led in a poll since, let's see, February 16th to February the Emerson poll conducted from February 16th to February 18th. So basically, Donald Trump has not led in a poll in 6 months. 6 months. That was before Biden even became the nominee. That was Biden's lowest point in the Democratic primary. And, Trump still has not been able to lead it in a poll since then. Now, looking here at 2016, Clinton does lead in most polls. However, there are many polls in which Trump is actually leading in. Quite a few of them. And if you look here, this was really when they became their party's nominees at the very end, because the 2016 primaries were much closer than what 2020 was. Of course, we have the Republican primary bump, and the Republican convention bump, and then the Democratic convention bump for Hillary Clinton. And as you can see, Trump was ahead by a little bit after his convention bump, and then Hillary Clinton went right back up there. And then on election day, Hillary Clinton led by 3.2%. And if you look at here, this big bump here was the October surprise when the FBI director reopened the case looking into Hillary Clinton's emails, which really swayed a lot of voters away from her. And then lastly, I just want to take a look at the betting odds for the 2020 election. As you can see here, Biden currently has a 24.5% lead in the betting odds over Donald Trump. Trump did actually lead in the betting odds for a while. Trump was never really ahead in the polls, or was he expected to win more states based on, state-by-state projections. However, he did have a better chance at winning the election according to betting for basically the entire time until the beginning of June, when the riots all across the country began for Black Lives Matter. And that is really when Biden took the lead in this election. As you can see here, looking at the polls for 2020, Biden's lead never really increased to what it is now until the beginning of June. So around right there, as you can see here, right there, Biden went up by around, 2-3% once those protests began, and Trump's just went down. Biden currently at 50% to Trump at 40.9%. And then if you look at the 2016 betting odds, Hillary Clinton does perform much better in the betting odds because Donald Trump was very underestimated in the 2016 election. Hillary Clinton had an 88% chance of winning the election, and she blew it. It's just, Trump was not seen as, a presidential figure. Nobody really thought he would win. People were saying that the Republican Party is doomed for the election. However, that of course was proven wrong by Trump on election night. So in 2020, there being much they're not underestimating Donald Trump as much as they did in 2016. However, his response to coronavirus, as well as the protests and just many other issues, have not been good recently, which is why Joe Biden leads by such a large margin in the betting odds at the moment. And then if you look at Trump's approval rating, if you look at the Biden-Trump favorability right now, you can see Trump has a negative 17.5 approval rating at the moment. And then if you look at Joe Biden, negative 1.9, which is basically a tie. He leads by 11 in a Fox News Biden favorability poll, 11% in a Fox News poll, and then Quinnipiac plus 2, and then some other polls he's behind on, and then in the latest Economist and YouGov poll, he is tied in terms of his favorability, and then Trump in a Quinnipiac poll, he is behind by 27 points in his favorability right now. Look at this. It has gone down significantly since the month of April. As you can see here, as the coronavirus began, his approval did actually go up, just because during national crises, the president's approval rating does tend to go up, as we saw in the year 2001 when the 9/11 attacks occurred, when George W. Bush's approval rating went all the way up to 90%, and then towards the end of his presidency went all the way down to 25%. As you can see here, this is similar to what's happening with Trump. His approval rating at the moment, an abysmal negative 17.5 net approval rating. As you can see, Biden's graph has just increased significantly recently. So that is me comparing the 2020 election to 2016. I think Joe Biden will definitely perform much better than Hillary Clinton, and I think that he is so set to win the 2020 presidential election. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like as well as subscribing to my channel. I would really appreciate that. Again, I have an election night coming out very soon. Please stay tuned for that, and I will see you in the next video.